Hello everyone, it's Math Coach Taylor here with another fraction video. In today's math lesson, we're going to be counting in fractional units by 1/4. Counting by fractions, what is that? Well, students learn how to count by whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but they rarely count by fractional units. Counting by fractional units definitely helps with fractions. When our students are learning fractions, it helps them identify the next fraction. It helps them identify the whole numbers. It helps them identify fractions greater than 1. So I'm going to show you how we can do a lot of things by doing a simple core count with fractions. So this is going to be part 1. So I'm going to do some of the things today. All right, I'm a math coach in Alabama with Region 8, The Great. And I'm going to be referencing this book, which is entitled Core Counting and Counting Collections. And we use this book when we talk about counting collections. And in the book, it gives us a lot of examples to use to help our students learn how to be proficient with counting. All right, so let's get started. So with counting by 1/4, we basically going to start counting by fractions. So our first fraction is 1/4. Keep counting. Next fraction, 2/4. Next fraction, 3/4. Next fraction, 4/4. And that's all I'm going to write on that row. And I'm going to come down here. Next fraction, 5/4. Next fraction, 6/4. Next fraction, 7/4. Next, 8/4. Now I'm going to come to the next row. I'm going to do one more row. 9/4. 10/4. 11/4. 12/4. Now, I'll have the student stop here, and what I want to do next is I'm going to ask the students, well, what patterns do you see? What do you notice? What happens when I go from one fraction to the next? And I want the students to be able to talk amongst themselves. That student discourse is important, and I want them to come up with to come up with what happens with when I go from 1/4 to 2/4. Hopefully the students are able to say that I'm adding 1/4 to get to the next number. So from 1/4 to 2/4, I'm adding 1/4. So I'm going to put plus 1/4 there. If a student tells me that, that's what I'm going to write in a different color. So 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4. 2/4 plus 1/4 is 3/4. 3/4 plus 1/4 is 4/4. And as you see, when I go from 6/4 to 7/4, I'm adding another 1/4. Does that happen here? From 10/4 to 11/4, when I add a 1/4, I get 11/4. All right, then I may ask the student, are there any other patterns? Anything else you notice? What happens when I go from one row to the next row? Give them a few minutes to look at it. Hopefully the students are able to tell me, and you're looking for specific answers. If they don't give you those specific answers, you kind of just continue to question them until you get your answer that you're looking for. So if I go from 1/4 to 5/4, what's happening? Okay, the fraction is increasing. What am I adding to get from 1/4 to 5/4? Hopefully, you're looking for the student to say, I'm adding 4/4. 1/4 plus 4/4 is 5/4. What if that student says, well, I'm adding 1? 1 whole? If they say, yeah, I'm adding 1 whole, keep questioning them. Okay, well, if I, can I rename this? Because right now I'm counting in fractional units. Can I rename that 1? Well, I'm going to rename that 1 to 4/4 to get to this fraction of 5/4. So from 2/4 to 6/4, same thing. I'm going to add 4/4. When I go from 6/4 to 10/4, does that still work? And you're just going to keep on going to show what happens when you go from one row to the next. Now, another question I may ask the student, are there any whole numbers? Do you see any whole numbers in our count? Hopefully they're able to identify that 4/4 is equal to 1 whole. So I'm going to put 1 whole here. Now, a lot of students will stop right there. You'll ask them, are there any more whole numbers? Hopefully they're able to identify 8/4. And 8/4 is equal to 2 wholes. Now, remember when I go from 4/4 to 8/4, I'm adding 4/4. So hopefully with your conversation, if a student does not recognize this as 2 wholes, you can bring them back up to here. Well, do I have any whole numbers in 8/4? I have a 4/4 and another 4/4. So there are my 2 wholes right there that equals to that. All right, is there another whole number? By having a discussion with this one, hopefully they're able to see that 12/4 is equal to 3 wholes. So, and I will bring them here. When I go from 8/4 to 12/4, remember I'm adding 4/4. And you'll help them be able to see the 3 wholes because guess what? Here's 1 whole here. There's another one that made 2 wholes. And then 2 wholes plus another 4/4 equals to 3 wholes. Now the last thing I may do on the first day is ask the students, do you see any fractions greater than 1? Any fractions greater than 1? Here's my 1 whole. Are there any fractions larger than this? Well, all the fractions here are larger than 1 whole. So I'm only going to do one example today, and in the next video, I will go into more detail with fractions greater than 1. So let's look at 5/4. 5/4 is considered a fraction greater than 1. So I'm going to write it here. And we want to write that as a mixed number. And hopefully you had a conversation about the definition of a mixed number, which is a whole number in a fraction. So I want to decompose. I want to show the students that I want to decompose this 5/4 into the 2 parts. So inside 5/4, I have 4/4, which is my whole, and I have a 4th because you remember I'm adding 1/4 each time. 4/4 is equal to 1 whole, and I have a 4th left. So 5/4 is actually 1 and 1/4. So I will come over here and squeeze in that. All right, so that's all I'm going to do today because that is a lot. That'll probably take about a good 15 to 20 minutes, with your students. That could be your number sense routine for today. But this will be, like I say, the first day of counting in fractional units to 1/4. See you next time.